Hey y'all, so this is my commemorative video of my Godly Neater playthrough. And I've played through Neater on all the other difficulties before, so I kind of know what to expect. But, you know, since the Godly difficulty is widely considered as, you know, beating the game, I figured that I would make a special video just for it. So, loading into the campaign, I instantly despawn the character and start basically stripping the home sweet home base for parts, because honestly, being made out of wood, the base itself was just never that great to begin with, and it does have some components on it that are decently expensive. And also, to drain the starting zone faster, I start slapping more material collectors onto the base itself. But I think the base has more than enough power to run all of those resource collectors, so I don't think we'll be capped in that way. Yeah, we seem to be having a decent amount of power left. And at this point, I'm not sure what I did. Yeah, I'm probably just... Oh yeah, I'm just checking to make sure that I'm actually, you know, collecting the materials faster than they're replenished in the zone. And then I continue to just strip more parts off of the base. Okay, so now that everything is done, we start building our first construct. I think it's either a resource collector or a recon satellite. I'm not sure yet, but I'm just setting like all my spawn distances and holding times and whatnot, so that way my newly built creation won't just drive into my starter fortress and destroy it, which I have had happen before in other playthroughs, especially with larger, less wieldy vessels.
Moving out.
Okay, so at this point I see the golden trench, so I start setting up my operations to get ready to mine it. I already have a resource collector and a scout craft built, so at this point, I think the vehicle in construction is it's a zone capturer. That's just a small, fast ship that I made just for capturing zones, which is going to be pretty important because there's a lot of high-value resource zones near us that we really want to get before all of the wars start kicking off. Okay, so yeah, at this point I realized that the big golden trench resource zone has a lot of replenishment, so I was actually not able to drain it as fast as it replenished, even after adding a lot more resource collectors to the little resource collecting ship. So at this point, I basically just built another resource collector, so I would just have two of them on the zone instead. So that way I could actually harvest the resources faster than they replenished. Because otherwise, I'm just putting a lot of monies, as you say, on the table. Oh yes, also, at some point, I created my first combat vessel, an Enforcer Alpha, or just like Enforcer A. Basically, it's a small light thruster craft designed for like combating light enemies. It's mostly focused, as you'll see later on just decent defense and offensive power for what it is, as well as just being material efficient when moved around and in combat. So here I am at the shipyard. I'm starting to load in the first of my more Enforcers. The alpha versions, just so I can have like a fleet by the time the campaign season kicks off and everybody starts declaring war. And as you can see, the shipyard's capable of providing like 1200 health to a ship at once, and so the Enforcer Alpha gets built in basically no time at all. It's important to note though that the shipyard doesn't give them materials, so I'll have to send in transports afterwards to feed materials to the newly built ships. But with the shipyard operational and at its desired stationing point, it's only a matter of time until I build a lot of ships to kick off the campaign. So So I go back to the shipyard one more time so that I can build the third ship in this fleet, which is it's the Enforcer A, but the destroyer version. Basically, destroyers they're like the standard ships modified to take bigger, more powerful guns, which allows them to bust through, more heavily armored enemies just at the cost of tactical flexibility. So like the destroyer version of the Enforcer Alpha is not as capable of dealing with very agile enemies because it replaces its small incendiary missiles with radar buoys so that it can better detect and hit larger, more slow-moving targets. Okay, so if you can look up in the top, there was only 10 seconds left until the deliberations, and they should be popping up any moment now. Yep, there they are. So yeah, now we got our options. The harder difficulties have a lot worse options, and especially since we're in the middle of the map, we're just gonna be fighting on different fronts. So I'm just scanning through the different options, seeing what I got. Yeah, a lot of the options weren't that great because you would be attacked on multiple sides. The ones that I ended up settling with were further down, with lead a war against white hoods and white flares and lightning hoods. Even though that one gave less commodities, the two enemies share roughly the same front, which I hoped would make it a lot easier to deal with them. Also, it's important to note that I'm recording this as I'm playing through the campaign, so while I'm recording the voiceovers, I don't actually know what's about to happen next. So yeah, I confirm my declarations of war and then continue. So now we're at war, and we have our first battle now. Currently one of our zone capturers is blockaded. So we send an alpha trio. Basically, that's just a group of 3 ships. That's like my standard fleet configuration is the trio, where you have 2 normal ships and then 1 destroyer ship. And that also goes for the larger enforcers, which you'll see more of later in this video. Okay, so we have our first battle now between an enforcer trio, and I'm not sure what those ships are. There's 2 lightning hoods ships. They're not very. Oh yes, it's 2 planes. The first one is I have no idea. My cursor's not on it. I think yes, the Axion. So I'm just setting all of my ships to attack it just because it's flying through us and it's the more expensive of the 2 ships. So I want to make sure that it doesn't get really any good hits on us. And so yeah, the Enforcer Alphas are just putting shots through it. The standard Enforcer Alpha, actually, despite its low cost, uses rail-assisted guns. So its projectiles move pretty fast and they're pretty decently capable of going and hitting relatively agile planes. The destroyer version has a bigger gun, but the shells are a lot slower. But it does look like, yeah, both of the planes are already going out of control. So this is going to be a really quick and easy first victory for us. And yeah, we win with no damage at all. So here we are heading into our second battle. Again, it's just over another blockaded zone capture. I think this is it's a Faraday. Oh yeah, I think this was around 200,000 materials. It was a relatively expensive plane, I think. And it's just shooting us with plasma. But yeah, our incendiary missiles hit. It's just another enforcer trio again. I think they're pretty capable of handling something like this. And so yeah, they're just the Faraday's just, yeah, it got hit, big hit, explosion. It's on fire. It's gonna go down any day soon. Yep, I think it's falling out of the sky now, so the battle should be over pretty quickly. Yeah, it's going down. And we have not taken that much damage, surprisingly. It seems like all of our Enforcer Alphas are still fully functional. And it's about to disintegrate any moment now. Yep, and the battle is over. Okay, so here we are heading into our third battle against the White Flares Resource Collector. The Flayed Monasteries don't have a lot of defense, if any at all. At least not against what we're fielding, simply because... Oh yeah, I ended the battle because I accidentally withdrew an enforcer rather than teleporting to it. I kind of wish those buttons were further away, but yeah, here I teleport to it, and off we go. Yeah, the enforcers sit at 2,000 meters away, which seems to be pretty far in this game. So the Flayed Monastery has a bunch of small missiles, but it can't actually hit us with any of them. So this is basically just going to be a free win for us. The only thing it could even potentially hit us with is just that tiny little those little AA machine guns on the front deck. But those aren't going to do anything, so this is an easy win. We're just going to absolutely dog walk this thing. Yep, and now it's starting to despawn. Okay, so here I am building the Enforcer 4. The Enforcer 4 is more of a general purpose medium type hover ship, like a medium type thruster craft. It's generally good at doing everything, but it's not like... The guns are generally powerful enough to do something against most enemies, unlike the Enforcer A. And it also has a laser system that both defends it and can be used to hit enemies, so it's slightly more versatile than the Enforcer A, and it's going to be the main backbone of the thrustercraft fleet going forwards, as I have more material to build them. Never mind, it looks like we already have an Enforcer 4 that was built earlier, and I just didn't catch that. Anyway, we're heading into battle against the... Yeah, I'm having trouble selecting, because every time it goes over the battle thing, it cancels the selection. But anyway, we're going against 2 more Lightning Hood ships. These are definitely going to be bigger, but since we have 2 Alpha Squad, like 2 Alpha Trios and an Enforcer 4, this will be a pretty easy win, I think. I mean, I already know the outcome of the battle, but... Yeah, so we have the Eclipse coming in. It's like a quick laser ship. I don't think it's a hydrofoil, but I don't know. It's hitting our Enforcer 4 with its lasers, but it doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot of damage to it right now. And it is taking a lot of damage from everything shooting at it, since we did tell all of our forces to target that thing. Yeah, and we don't seem to be taking very much damage from the little lookup. You can see its LAM system's just working overtime, but it's not quite enough to keep all of our attacks at bay. We're just throwing too many missiles and shells at it. And since the Enforcer Alpha's shells move really fast at like 2,200 meters per second, it's going to be really hard to intercept it. And the Eclipse also doesn't seem to have that much armor either, so it looks like our shells are just going straight into it and messing it up. The Alpha shoots frag shells, I believe, and then the Enforcer 4 shoots AP heat. And the Eclipse has stopped moving at this point. It's still firing its laser, but you can see that it's not really doing anything, even against the lightly armored Enforcer A's. And the Luxon is actually getting hit. That little green laser that you see flashing is actually our laser. That's the 2Q pulse laser on the Enforcer 4. And it's controlled by a separate AI, which means that it targets stuff that is not being targeted by the main ship. It prioritizes like smaller, faster targets rather than large, bulky ones like the Eclipse. Yeah, and you can see here our APS shells are all missing the Luxon, but you can see that the the laser from the Enforcer 4 is hitting dead on every single time. And the damage is stacking up. And you can see some stuff exploding on the little plane as well. Yep, and the laser just got a good hit. Yeah, you can see that green pulse laser firing. Okay, yeah, and the Luxon is dead, so everything's gonna target back to the Eclipse, and it should go down pretty quickly. Yep, and it's despawning now. And yeah, we didn't take a lot of damage from that engagement. The Enforcer Force soaked most of that up, and it doesn't seem like the Eclipse just had enough laser power to do anything to it. Even though it's really only made out of, like, the Enforcer 4 is only made out of metal, despite being a front-siding thruster craft. And that's just because I find that heavy armor on the front tends to make ships a little bit unwieldy. So that's just the setup I went with for that one. Okay, so here we are going into our first big battle of the campaign against the White Flare's Judgment. It's like a 500,000 material ship, so I've been eyeing this thing a little bit nervously up to this point, just because it is pretty big, and so it probably has a lot of damage output and good armor. Losing this battle here with this many of our ships could be catastrophic for us, but luckily hopefully we pull through. The Judgment seems to be using particle cannons, which means that its weapons should become disabled pretty easily. And it seems to be targeting the Enforcer 4 right now, and I think the Judgment might be using the broadside maneuver routine, which honestly I don't prefer that, just because if the enemy is outside of your broadsiding range, your ship ends up driving straight at them or straight away from them, and that means like with the Judgment, half of its guns just can't even aim at the target, and so its firepower has been reduced to basically a third of what it normally would be, and so the Judgment is honestly just eating it right now. Its packs don't seem to be able to punch very deep into the Enforcer 4's armor, and it only has a third of its firepower active, really. So it's not having a good time. Honestly, instead of using broadside, I would recommend using the circle combat routine, just because you can actually set the angle at which you approach and move away from the enemy. And you can set it so that all of your guns can still hit the enemy, instead of just like your broadsiding thing making your ship just like nullify half of its guns. It's the same thing with like the maneuver routine. Like, ironically for ships and tanks, I find that it's better to use the hover routine rather than the ship or tank routine, just because for some reason the ship and tank routine just can't ever seem to turn your craft properly, whereas the hover routine actually can. So even if your ships don't have strafing ability, for some reason the hover routine still works better than your standard ship or tank. And then of course for ships, it's just a matter of slapping like 1 or 2 extra propellers to strafe. And then your ship just maneuvers a whole lot better. I noticed that my ships collide with each other a lot less after I switched them all over to the hover maneuver. So I don't know how the FTD AI works. It can be kind of dumb sometimes. Anyway, the Judgment is currently rolling over onto its side and is now upside down. It's been completely nullified at this point. All of its weapons are broken. It doesn't have propulsion. So we've basically won this with surprisingly little damage. But yeah, you can see here where the resource consumption of the Enforcer 4 comes in. It started the battle with completely full materials at like 50,000 materials, and it's already burned through like over half of it. It's down to like 20,000 materials, and the battle's not even over yet, so it's super material inefficient compared to the Enforcer Alphas, which burn much less material. And that's really the thing that sets the two apart and makes the Enforcer Alpha such a better early game ship. It's just that it burns less materials in combat, and so it's easier to keep resupplied. Anyway, the judgment is despawning now, meaning that we will have taken a victory in our first big battle of this campaign. So yeah, here we are heading into another battle. I was trying to get like another... Oh wait, actually no, I did get 2 Enforcer Trios in range. I thought I only got 1 in range, and I was like, this might be a little bit of a more hairy battle. I mean, the way I go about this is that I just try to bring like overwhelming material advantage to every fight, which is why the Enforcers are such an important part of my strategy, because their fast movement lets me sort of like aggregate a whole bunch of them together in one place at a time. And that just means that I can, bring more material to a fight and take the enemies out faster before they really have a chance to get many shots off on me. As you can see, the Axion is starting to sort of like spiral. It's taking a lot of damage as it drifts close. Yeah, it's lost a whole bunch of stuff. It's gone. Critical existence failure, as they say. So now what was the name of that plane? I'll just have to wait for it to pop up. The Luxon. I think we saw this battle. I think we saw this Lightning Hood ship combination in one of our first fights as well. So yeah, this is basically just gonna go the exact same. We're just gonna stomp them. Nothing else to say, really. Although, yeah, this is where you see that the little incendiary missiles on the Enforcer Alphas really shine here. It really makes them more versatile against the more agile enemies, just because the guns aren't quite able to hit them, and because incendiary does more damage the faster the ship goes, against these small, fast, agile enemies, it really just burns them up really quickly, and it takes them out of the fight. Even if you only land 1 or 2 missile hits, that's usually enough to destroy the enemy by just burning them to the ground. And so, yeah, as you can see, the Enforcer, the Destroyer version over there, has the 2 little radar buoys instead of the little missiles. Hey guys, so it's a new day for me, and we're opening back up the campaign. It looks at this point, it looks like the White Flares have used up most of their ships, and they don't really have anything left, because that's just like a really cheap Sin Eater. It's like a really cheap nuke craft, and it's definitely not going to do anything. And if they're just sending out these little Sin Eaters against us, I mean, they're probably low on materials at this point, and they're getting a bit desperate. Yeah, but anyway, the Sin Eater just gets completely demolished, and yeah, I think it's close to the end for the White Flares at this point. So at this point, we've accumulated a decent amount of materials, around like 400,000 to 500,000. So I'm starting to build a logistics hub. Basically, the logistics hub sits right outside of the shipyard, and it basically acts as a staging point for all materials and ships. So when they're not in combat, the ships are just sort of like how they're positioned around the shipyard right now. The ships are positioned around the logistics hub, and then when they need to go off to combat, you just fill them up from the logistics hub and send them off. So that way it's easy to make sure everything always has materials, and that you're not like, you don't have materials far away from the combat or something like that. So here we are blowing up a Lightning Hood to resource zone. Yeah, I'm just showing this so that you guys have a general idea of our progress through the campaign, but there's really nothing exciting to see here. It's usually it's usually a pretty one-sided stomp down or beat down. I saw some enemies coming out of the fog of war, and then I realized that the white flares might not actually be completely out of materials, because there are 4 ships. I mean, none of them were particularly expensive, but a ship is a ship, and so I figured I would have to deal with them. And what was more concerning to me was the fact that they seemed to be splitting up, meaning that I would have to try and send ships to different locations. Luckily, the enforcers are quick enough to shuffle our forces around, but you know, it's always, you can always make some mistakes and then end up losing a fight, and that would be really bad. But yeah, I'm currently looking at the Disemboweler. I've been eyeing this one for a while now. So I engaged it in battle thinking it would be an easy win. But as I found out, the Disemboweler is a sub, and we don't have any means of seeing it right now. And so you're about to look at like 30 seconds of my ships shooting at it and missing. And fortunately for us, the Disemboweler doesn't seem to be able to see out of the water either. So all of its shots are also just missing us as well. And it's a complete stalemate. I let the battle run for a little bit just to see if any side can actually get a hit. But unfortunately, no hits were landed, and so I just ended the battle and looked for another opportunity to deal with the Disemboweler. And how I deal with subs in my fleet is I simply use a spotting vehicle that can actually see underwater, and so that allows everything else to shoot at submarines, because the shells fired by the enforcers go fast enough to where the slowdown of water is not super significant, especially since they're shooting from above the water into the water at like a steeper angle since they, fly. That means that the shells don't really ricochet, and the slowdown incurred by water isn't enough to stop the shells from just hitting the sub, even if the shells don't have any super cavitation on them. And so here we are about to go into combat with those white flare ships that appeared earlier. And I'm just finalizing my ship positions and then getting ready to engage. It seems like all the ships are just coming out just to stop us from capturing their zones. And it did work. As you can see at the top, I had to recall a zone capturer that was super close to completion because I just didn't have any ships up there to defend it. But anyway, yeah, that's the Velas and the Sin Eater. And so, here we go. Any moment now. Yep. So after a little bit of setup, we finally load into the battle. There goes the Sin Eater. It's driving around. Something just exploded all the way in the far corner. I don't know what that was. And the Vela is actually a surface melee ship, which is very unfortunate for us because everything we have flies. And so the Vela is basically completely useless. It's just chasing down an Enforcer 4, but it's nowhere near fast enough to catch it, and even if it could, it still can't hit it. I mean, it looks really cool though with the big particle cannon melees, and then the huge rotating spiky things. But yeah, it's not really gonna do anything to us. I imagine this thing would actually be pretty deadly if we were using slow surface ships. But alas, it was never meant to be. Yep, and it's AI dead, so it's starting to disintegrate. I think everything else is dead at this point, so this is the end of the battle. And yep, there it is. So here we are back in combat with the Disemboweler from earlier. Yeah, unfortunately, our spotter gets instantly EMP deathed. Unfortunately, I did not EMP proof that thing at all. It's just the AI mainframe just sits on bare metal, and looks like the Disemboweler just so happens to have EMP packs. And so it knocked out the spotter, and without the spotter, again, the enforcers can't see anything. So at this point, I just ended the battle and fell back. And here the Lightning Hoods reinforced our allies here with an Exodine, which is like 750,000 materials. And so the Exodine plus the Disemboweler is like 1 million, and I think I only had like 1 million materials worth of ships. Here I am just trying to like refit the spotter to make it more EMP resistant, but honestly, it wasn't really needed for reasons you'll see in the upcoming fight. Huge plot twist, by the way, kind of. At this point, I noticed that the Exodine was like trying to head north for some reason, so I blockaded it with the Alpha Trio so that my ships could catch it from behind, with the hope that, you know, they would actually arrive before my ships were pulled into combat with the Exodine, because that would have been really bad if it happened, because the Enforcer Trio only costs around like 200,000 materials. Against a 750,000 material Exodine, they don't stand any chance. And here we are going into battle against both the Exodine and Disemboweler at the same time. Yeah, unfortunately the Exodine just spawned in the water and it can't get out, so it's basically done for. There's nothing. Yeah, it's just getting shot to death now. And so, I mean, yeah, unfortunately, F from the Depths has like this unfortunate spawning thing where sometimes ships just don't spawn the way they should, and that causes them to just instantly lose the match. For that reason, actually, my Enforcer ships have actually been designed to be able to lift themselves out of the water. And the Disemboweler is on low materials. It still can't see or hit anything. And, well, actually no, it did hit something. It landed a lucky hit on this Enforcer Alpha and took out its AI, so that thing's just floating around in the water right now. But it's just one, yeah, as you can see, it's just the AI that's gone. Nothing else has been damaged, so it should be a pretty easy repair. But the Disemboweler just can't hit anything else. The Exodine is below 80% health and sinking. The Disemboweler is about to die soon because it has no materials, and yep, it's also gone. Honestly, this was kind of disappointing. I was hoping for a more, a somewhat exciting fight where we were more evenly matched toe for toe or head to head. I don't know. But yeah, the fact that both enemy ships basically just killed themselves is kind of disappointing. And finally, the White Flare's headquarters, the Gorgon, comes into view. Here I am just fiddling around with the spotter some more to try and get it to not die to EMP. But yeah, with the Gorgon in view, we now have an end goal in sight, and that means that the White Flares will be going down pretty soon. So here we are just shooting up one of their little transport vessels from the White Flares, the Repentance. Honestly, the Repentance is surprisingly capable for a transport vessel since it has like a gun and it has like some actual armor. But yeah, against an actual warship, it doesn't really stand a chance, especially not against three of them. We outmatched this thing material-wise like at least 2-1. Yeah, and apparently the resource collector was actually in this battle as well. I just didn't notice that it was pulled in. But anyway, there it goes. Pretty easy win. And I think with the resource collector gone, it's really just onto the main fortress of the White Flares. Yeah, so here we are launching a deep strike mission against one of the Lightning Hood's resource collectors. Another benefit of these enforcers' speed is that you can push deep into enemy territory with them, as long as there's no other enemies around, of course. And you can attack stuff like resource zones or transport vessels to help cut the enemy's fortress off and stop them from producing more ships. Yeah, and this is their Fulgurite. Honestly, the Fulgurite is kind of expensive for what it is. I think it's mostly just RTG powered, and then it has some missiles, but the missiles are... Honestly, I think the Fulgurite needs like a rework, because the thing itself isn't bad. The problem is that the missile controllers are just out in the open on the back of each of those missile turrets, so it's super easy for them to just get knocked off by explosions or frags. And that just results in the whole missile turret being turned off. Yeah, as you can see, the remaining 3 turrets are no longer functioning. And so this battle is also a wrap as well. So here we are against a Lightning Hood's Thunderbird. I don't know what this thing is. All I know is that it's a plane, and it probably has lasers because it's the Lightning Hoods. And yeah, what do you know? It's a plane with lasers. Honestly, I'm not sure why I wish the Lightning Hoods used something other than Zero Q. Like, I know Zero Q is good for defense, but if lasers are your primary offensive armament, then I really just wouldn't use the Zero Q. Because as you can see, it's doing almost nothing against our armor here. It's just burning off the occasional metal block. And that's just my problem with Zero Qs, is even though they have more pierce, because the instability causes the laser to wiggle around like that, it really spreads the damage out and means that, realistically, Zero Q has less armor piercing potential than any other type of Q, which is why the Enforcer here uses a 2Q, because the 2Q can at least destroy one metal block per hit. And anyway, Thunderbird goes down and we win another fight. And here we are blowing up another resource collector. It seems like I really took my time here, just picking off the resource zones one by one before engaging the main fortress. I think that was just because I wanted to capture all adjacent tiles so that my ships could be easily repaired if we attacked the fortress and then we took damage or something like that. And then taking out the resource zones just stops the enemy fortress from actually building stuff to harass us and whatnot. Okay, and here we are surrounding the white flares with the Gorgon with our ships. This is the final showdown. If we win here, the white flares will be gone for good. And I'm just waiting for the final few ships to move into place, and we begin the battle. Now, we do outmatch the Gorgon pretty significantly in resources. Yeah, I always try to make sure that the volume limit is as high as it can go, just because I know it causes lag, but I do like seeing all the ships in battle at once, all slugging it out. It makes it more chaotic and a little bit more fun. But anyway, yeah, we do significantly outmatch the Gorgon. Again, I like to bring way more ships to the fight than I have to. Some of the ships are shooting at the little munitions factory or whatever it is. No, the Tithe Hold. I think the munitions factory is the Lightning Hood's thing. But anyway, yeah, we're just dumping rounds into the Gorgon. The Gorgon is, honestly, I'd say, apart from the Steel Striders, it's probably one of the more powerful fortresses, if that's the right word for it. Basically, it has a lot of guns and a good amount of defense and a good amount of redundancy. So it's not just oh, and there goes a turret on the Gorgon. But yeah, as I was saying, it's not quite like the Davy Jones locker from the Deepwater Guard, where it's just it can't really defend itself and it's just something for you to shoot at. But no, the Gorgon can actually shoot back. And that's why I brought so many ships to this fight. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't actually lose this one or take a whole lot of damage from it. And yeah, the Gorgon will take a while to kill. It seems like most of its guns and weapons seem to have been disabled. The AP heat on those Enforcer 4s really helps tunnel through the armor. The AP blasts through the first few layers of armor, and then the heat, at that point, presumably the heat would have gotten past any spaced armor that exists and just dump its copper jet straight into the enemy's turrets and whatnot and just shut them down. But yeah, the Gorgon's weapons have been disabled. But again, with these fortresses, they're so large and they're so spread out that it frequently takes a while to do enough damage to kill them. And so I'll check back in with y'all when this fortress inevitably goes down. And yep, we just got the achievement for destroying the white flares. It didn't show up here because I'm just recording the game window. But yeah, the Gorgon is going down. We've officially beat the white flares. And I think it's cool how the thing despawns just row by row. I'm not sure how the despawn order works for ships. Is it the order that the blocks are placed in? Or is it just I don't know, because some ships seem to disintegrate all of their buoyant blocks at once. Some ships seem to disintegrate from the outside to the inside. And then this one's just disintegrating line by line from right to left. But yeah, you can see there's some blocks that are still floating there. I'm not really sure how the disintegration order of blocks is determined. The funniest part is when all of the heavy blocks disintegrate first, and then the buoyancy causes the ship to pop out of the air and start flying. That one's always pretty funny to see. And yep, there it is, the white flares are gone. And so now we can turn our attention to the lightning hoods and bring about their end pretty quickly as well. Well, it's a new day for me, and it seems to be a new day for the lightning hoods as well, because they've just produced a new terawatt. You can see me speed the game up and then quickly turn it back to normal when I realized that they had built something, and now I'm just searching for something that can answer it. This terawatt this time does not spawn in the water, so we actually have an interesting fight with it for once. Okay, so here we are squaring up with that terawatt from earlier. I'm just waiting for the last of my ships to move into position. I have brought more firepower than I should need to this fight, so it should not be particularly difficult to pull off a win here. I'm just adding ships into the match, waiting, and to let the battle begin. I think this is the largest ship that we have faced off against so far. You can see it's covered in shields, and I'm not sure. It seems to be. Oh, I think the terawatt. Yes, the terawatt wields plasma guns, and unfortunately, the enforcers, while they do evade, they don't evade fast enough to dodge plasma, and so they're just gonna have to face tank the plasma. Luckily, there's a lot of stuff coming off of them, but luckily for the enforcers, they have a pretty large nose in terms of volume, and so that means that even though the plasma blows off a lot of blocks, there's a lot of stuff to get through, and so they tend to be decently resilient against plasma. But yeah, if the fight drags on too long, some of the enforcers might find themselves in trouble if that plasma manages to eat through their frontal armor. What's even worse is if the plasma scores a hit on like the sides of the ship or like the top or bottom where the armor is thin, that will definitely cause damage to the insides of the ship. And in future battles in the campaign, it definitely does. Ooh, yeah, the plasma shot has definitely made its way inside. Luckily, though, for the Enforcer... Oop, there goes a barrel. Anyway, for the Enforcer 4s, the center section in the front is rather empty, and so even if a shot makes it through there, it doesn't do too much damage. The weaponry is all stored off in the sides of the ship, and that does make them a decent bit more resilient to being damaged. Anyway, the terawatt seems to have lost a turret now. Yeah, that... Is it? Yes, one turret is down. It's not firing anymore. Probably got taken out by the AP heat of an Enforcer 4. That AP heat has a tendency to make its way into delicate components. But the terawatt still has that one gun. It's still got its laser. The LAMS system on the terawatt doesn't seem to be as functional anymore. There's a large cargo container off of the terawatt, which should mean that our shots are starting to make it pretty deep. Yeah, I'm just pausing the game now. I like pausing the game to like check out the damage we've done so far. I don't ever take manual control of my ships in the campaign to like AI snipe the enemy or something. I just let the ships do their own thing. I find it to be a little bit too cheap if I just manually control my ships to snipe the enemy. But anyway, there are laser components coming out now, and it seems like the laser has been turned off on the terawatt. It's still going, but it's close to the end for it. Its plasma shots also seem to be getting weaker now. That hit didn't seem to take off as much from that Enforcer. And you can see that the Enforcer has lost a lot, but you can see how thick the nose armor is. On the left side of the Enforcer, you notice that the shot hasn't even made it through the frontal armor in that area yet. and the components for the gun are located behind that frontal armor section. So there's quite a lot to get through if you want to start knocking out the weapons on those Enforcer 4s, which makes them pretty good, all things considered, at just shrugging off hits, even if it's from ships that are much bigger than they are. Anyway, the Terawatt is slowing down, and as with most Lightning Hood's hydrofoils, it can't keep itself above the water. These things are not naturally buoyant. Honestly, kind of a shame. They would be a decent bit more survivable if they actually could float themselves. But at the same time, as far as I know, the Neater campaign ships do have like a 30,000 volume limit, so they can't afford to really do stuff like that. So you have dense heavy armor bricks like this that just kind of sink once they lose their thrust. And here we go against the Lightning Hood's fortress. I have no idea what it's called. But regardless, a victory here means that the Lightning Hoods will also be gone for good. And then we'll be able to snatch up their resource zones without much difficulty. Also, their Ascension Lab is like super annoying. Because it has a lot of ships and defenses. And I don't really like attacking it. So getting rid of this fortress will get rid of all of those Ascension Labs. And just really make it a lot easier. Anyway, it seems to be called the Quartz Stone. It's the little floating sub-vehicles are getting quite heavily damaged quite quickly. It seems like the lasers on our Enforcers are pretty easily punching through them and taking them out. I have tried to like surround the fortress here, but I'm not sure how much that actually matters. The Quartz Stone is very spread out. It's like even more wireframe-y than the Gorgon from the White Flayers. And that means that, again, this thing will probably take a decent amount of time to kill, just because the damage has to be spread out over such a large area, and you have to destroy so many things. But the laser defenses are doing a pretty good job at shooting down our missiles and a good amount of our shells. However, a good amount of our shells are also making it through, especially from the Enforcer 4 destroyers. You can see the explosive damage at 91,000 already. Each shell fired by the Enforcer 4 destroyer is like, it does like 30,000 explosive damage because it's a maximum 16 piece long 500mm railgun shell. So those do a lot of damage when they connect and the explosive goes off. But they do sometimes have a tendency to over-penetrate, which isn't great. But they really do excel at knocking out thicker, beefier targets. Yeah, the Quartz Stone actually is not shooting its lasers anymore, which means that its laser system is probably already gone. And I'm not seeing any of the blue lasers from the laser nodes either, the LAMS system. So at this point, it's just a matter of time until the fortress goes down. Another big hit from the destroyer. I'm doing like another 30,000 explosive damage. Though some of the ships are also targeting the munitions factory as well, so that'll go down pretty soon. Yep, and the fortress is beginning to despawn. Yep, and it's gone. It seems like the munitions factory was already dead at that point, so the battle is over, and we have won. Okay, so here it is the next day for me. We are beginning a new campaign season. Normally I would wait until the next council meeting is called, but I didn't want to wait this time around, and I figured it would be more exciting to just go ahead and call the meeting now. So here I'm just evaluating my different choices. We have, the ones I'm really thinking of are join Onyx Watch, the one that I'm looking at right now, or I believe it was the yes, that one, the other one, lead a war. I ultimately ended up choosing the join the Onyx Watch rather than lead a war, just because going to war with the Twin Guard would basically force us to defend 3 fronts at once, and that would be a bit tricky. I also looked again into like against Deepwater Guard and Grey Talons, but you didn't get a reward for that. And considering that you only add the Scarlet Dawn for the second option, and you gain so many commodities out of it. So I figured it was worth it, especially since despite being a late game challenging faction, I have not actually found the Scarlet Dawn to be super threatening. I don't know if it's because they just like don't have a lot of resource zones or something to produce ships. But the Scarlet Dawn are honestly not that difficult to beat. I find the Grey Talons to be more challenging. I don't know if it's because they just have more materials available to them to field larger ships, but I feel like the Grey Talons designs are harder to beat compared to the Scarlet Dawn ones. And here we lose our first ship of the campaign. I just immediately skipped the battle because the scout doesn't move, it doesn't evade, and it has no armor or weapons. So it's basically a guaranteed loss, and I wasn't gonna really spend any time on that. So here I am trying to scramble ships to quickly answer the Deepwater Guard. I kind of forgot that I had like this far little corner of the map, and unfortunately I don't actually have enough ships to defend it. So I'm just trying to get some Enforcer Alphas quickly built so that I can sort of like ward off the enemy's attacks for now. This is just a battle against a Deepwater Guard fortress. There's not ever anything interesting to note here, because Deepwater Guard fortresses go down super easily. But somehow, I've never seen this before, but there's 2 fortresses. There's a fishing hole and a Sinner's Outpost. And I seem to have caught them in the midst of like building each other. So it seems like the Sinner's Outpost is being built by the fishing hole. And so it's actually being docked. And I've never seen this before. This is my first time actually seeing a faction fortress docked to another faction fortress. So I don't know, this was just interesting, but battle-wise, there's nothing of note here. This was the moment I knew that we might be in for a little bit of a rougher ride, because that right there is the Laniakea. I don't know if I already moused over it or not, but yes, that Scarlet Dawn ship coming in is the Laniakea, which is widely known for just sort of tearing things apart pretty quickly. So yeah, we're being attacked along the entire front by both the Scarlet Dawn and the Grey Talons. So we'll have to clean that up somehow. We're currently divided between the top and the bottom of our territory. For now, right now, the Deepwater Guard designs are not too terribly challenging. But as you guys are about to see, that's all going to change. Anyway, here we are against the Flieger. They actually redesigned this thing recently. They turned it into more of a float plane rather than a traditional bomber style. So it looks a lot cooler now. I will give them credit for that. However, it looks cooler, but I wouldn't say it's any better of a design. It still, as you can see, it still blows up quite spectacularly when hit, and then proceeds to immediately disintegrate. Honestly, they should probably do something about that explosion. It is, for some reason, the Flieger is classed as a hard design, but I would say that it should probably be like an easy or medium, just because it goes down so fast. As soon as you hit like its tail section, the entire thing just detonates and the tail gets ripped off. Anyway, another battle in rapid succession against the Steamworks. The Steamworks is just the Deepwater Guard transport vessel. I think it's like sort of like built to look like sort of like a train, which is pretty cool. I don't know. I wish I could build cool transport vessels, but mine, for the sake of aerodynamic efficiency, always end up just being like sticks of cargo storage. Yeah. But anyway, we're taking a lot of bits out of it. Nothing to see here. Steamworks is already falling out of the sky, and that's the end of that. and here we are, starting a battle against the Laniakea. This is the first big ship. This is the biggest ship so far that we have ever gone against. The Laniakea is known for being a super powerful 1v1 ship, but since we're jumping it with like 2 million materials worth of ships from multiple directions, I don't think the Laniakea has much of a chance here, honestly. And this kind of just goes to show like my biggest gripe with the From the Depths AI. The main laser seems to have already been knocked off, that turret up top. But yeah, my biggest gripe is that the From the Depths AI really likes to send ships in by themselves, which is like, I mean, it's just not... I wish they would protect their capital ships better, because you end up having situations like this where you have a really powerful ship being sent in, but because it's just by itself with no protection, it's quite easy to take out. The Laniakea is almost guaranteed to lose this fight. It's getting shot at from every direction. There's like missiles flying all around it. If it was part of like a big fleet, then it would actually be a lot harder to kill, and there would be quite a challenge. But yeah, I mean, it's just by itself, so most ships in From the Depths, mine included, don't do particularly well when they get surrounded. But yeah, those heat missiles are quite deadly. They hit from every direction, and as you can see, a good portion of those missiles actually miss because the remote guidance just isn't super accurate. But that's actually a good thing, because as you can see, a lot of these missiles are turning around and then hitting the Laniakea from the other side. And this just results in the enemy being surrounded by a huge cloud of missiles, just getting hit from every direction. And that chips a lot of parts out of them. You can see that the sub-vehicles are being hit as well, and they're actually not being... The Laniakea is not able to repair those sub-vehicles, because there's just so many of them getting damaged at once. Yeah, it's taking more missiles from the front. The missiles, again, they like to curve and weave, so it's not... Blocking them with shields isn't super effective. Here's another cloud of missiles coming in from the rear. Honestly, the Laniakea is lasting surprisingly long. In some of the designer battles that I've done against it, even like 2 missile trucks is enough to like drop it pretty quickly. So we seem to just not be hitting any thrusters this time, so the Laniakea is staying afloat. However, its lasers are not super duper functional. It doesn't seem to have its interceptors anymore either. And it can't effectively repair its sub-vehicles, which means that it's only a matter of time until it ultimately goes down. Oh, there it is, pulling in its sub-vehicles for repair. More missiles are landing on it from the sides and rear. A line of something just fell out. That might have been a laser on it. And yeah, the Laniakea is in trouble here because it is no longer able to turn properly. Because you can see like the weapons are aiming at something else, but the ship is not. And as a front-sider, the moment that happens is usually the moment when the fight is over. Just because if a front-sider can't point its front at the enemy, it usually just takes a whole bunch of damage and immediately drops out of the sky. So unfortunately for the Laniakea, it is not long for this world, and it will meet its end at the bottom of the ocean very soon. It's retargeting to another ship. Honestly, we are not taking as much damage here as I thought we would. You can see 98%. I think maybe only one of our ships dips below 80% health in this fight. Again, that is somewhat to be expected just because there's so many things surrounding the Laniakea. But still, I would have thought it would have maybe like focused on one ship and just really beat it into the ground. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be switching between targets quite a lot. And once again, it switches targets to another ship. At this point, though, I'm not. It does. It seems like a lot of the sub vehicles themselves have also been somewhat taken out. The game is somewhat laggy. Yeah, that's just kind of the price you pay for having a lot of ships. But I think more ships is always a cooler fight. And I mean, the frame rate, I wouldn't say it's that bad. More stuff comes out of the Laniakea, including what seems to be another laser. I think the Laniakea has dropped lower, but it could just be me. Some of its guns, yeah, the sub vehicles are still firing. It's still repairing them. But more missiles are coming in anytime soon. Yep, you can see a missile truck in the background that just fired its missile volley. And there comes another volley of missiles. It seems like the Laniakea is just spinning around in circles in reverse at this point. It doesn't seem to be able to go forward or turn. And so, yeah, things aren't looking too hot. But again, it's lasting a lot longer than I thought it would. I certainly don't. I certainly have seen it lose a lot faster. I think it's. No, I don't think it's going down yet. Never mind. I think it is actually dropping. Yep, it seems to be losing altitude pretty consistently now. So it's only a matter of time until the thing drops into the water. Yeah, I mean, against front sliders like these, I've always considered maybe making like a powerful front sider killing ship with a big pierce laser that just punches all the way through. That would be a really cool and a really fun ship design. The only problem with that is that I already have a way of dealing with front siders, and it's just this. It's just spamming lots of ships from every direction and bombarding them with missiles that curve around their shields and their defenses. And that's really just the whole anti-frontsider strategy. So while I do kind of wish to field actual dedicated anti-frontsiders, there's just no reason for me to, because my current fleet already accommodates for that. And the Laniakea is finally dipping into the water, which means that it will despawn very soon. Surprisingly, the Laniakea has held on for a very long time. I was not expecting it to be able to go this far, surrounded by that many ships. And you can see all the missiles trying to get to it. And yeah, you can see here, apart from the detectors, which are just cheap little detection drones, none of the ships have really taken much damage. Like here, 87%. It's lost some of its missiles, but I think like half of its missile array is still functional. So, and the ship's systems don't seem to be damaged at all. It's not really having any trouble maneuvering. So overall, Laniakea didn't do that much. Again, it'd be a lot more threatening if the AI actually deployed it with a lot of other ships as well, so that you couldn't just like surround it and tunnel it to death. But yep, there it goes, and the battle is won by us. Here we have the Harpia, which is going to soon become one of my least favorite ships to fight in the entire game, because as you'll see in this battle, it sits really far away and just bombards you with plasma guns. And so most of my ships can't actually catch up to it because it just runs so fast. And so in every battle, it ends up just being like one or two ships versus the Harpia instead of the whole fleet. And so the battles take a really long time because my ships, the 2 and 4 Surf 4s, are not good at dealing with heavy armor. So the fight drags on for a super long time, and the Harpia's missile defenses mean that the missile trucks can't really do anything either.
Listening.
And here on the other side of the map, we're taking on a Tarpon and a group of flying squirrels. I actually did not realize the Tarpon was in this fight at the time. All I saw were the flying squirrels, and unfortunately, that means we are heavily outmatched, and we will probably lose this fight. And now, with our ships heavily damaged, I decided to withdraw from the fight and regroup again. So back over to the Grey Talons, we begin another battle on the border. Here we are against an Iron Gate. This is I think this is like a hard difficulty Grey Talons ship. And it has 2 rapid firing, I believe like frag guns. But here it's outmatched against a whole bunch of missile trucks and enforcers. So it's going to go down pretty quick. And yeah, its propulsion has stopped and it's falling out of the sky. And in our last border skirmish with the Grey Talons, we take on the Pike, which is a ship with a single, I believe it's one big APS gun that it just slings shells super fast. Yeah, you can see that massive cannon on the front. Honestly, the Pike is one of my favorite ships of the Grey Talons just because it like looks super cool, and the gun also does a lot of damage as well. I mean, I've always liked the concept of just like a ship with one big gun and it just shoots stuff really hard. That's really what most of my ships are based on as well. They tend to just have a few weapons that hit hard rather than a lot of weapons that hit okay hard. And Enforcer 4 has gone down into the water. It's not AI dead, so I assume it's just the... Yeah, as you can see, the shell went straight in through the front and it blew up the thrusters on the front, as well as took out some engines. So that ship doesn't have enough thrust to stay up anymore. The propellers don't have engine power and the thrusters aren't able to keep it up. And here the missile truck's missiles come in, and that's basically it for the Pike. You can see a bunch of APS pieces coming out. More missiles are coming in, and once their missiles get through the enemy's defenses, it's basically game over for them, because the missiles just do so much damage, and they breach just about any kind of armor that the enemy has. So the battle was won here. The Pike's ammunition is like exploding and stuff. And it begins to despawn.
listening, moving out. Listening, moving out, moving out. Listening, moving out. Listening, listening, moving out. Listening, moving out. Listening, moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. 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 Engaging now. Listening.
Here we engage the sailfish, which is the Deepwater Guard really threw their whole godly roster at us this time. First we had the tarpon, which is, I don't think it's dead yet at the time of this recording, and now we have the sailfish. There's also a group of flying squirrels in this fight. The Deepwater Guard spam quite a few of those at us. But yeah, the sailfish is faster than our enforcers, our enforcer alphas, so they don't retreat fast enough and they just kind of get flamethrowered to death. The flamethrower starts off slow, burning a few blocks away, but once it gets through the armor, everything inside just gets toasted. And yeah, you can see the enforcer alpha just losing a lot of health, and it's starting to despawn from damage. Yeah, and the sailfish is just really fast. It's one of those things where if you can run away from it, it can't hurt you, but if you can't run away from it, it will hurt you really badly. And the flying squirrels are also doing a lot of damage with those missiles as well. Yeah, the sailfish locks onto another enforcer alpha. I think the sailfish has decoys on its on its fin tips, because it seems like a lot our incendiary missiles are not really able to hit it. It must be those decoys that are drawing them away, if it does have decoys there. And the one enforcer alpha in the distance has been dropped into the water, I believe by the flying squirrel's missiles. And this one is despawning from damage as well. And we have just one more enforcer alpha left in this fight. Unfortunately, we're going to lose this one as well. I try running away from the battle here, but the sailfish is faster than the enforcer, so we get caught by the sailfish again anyway, and it ends up being pulled into battle and we lose. Yeah, you can see the sailfish closing in here, and we're trying to run, but the sailfish is getting closer, and yeah, now we have to fight it.
Listening. Engaging now.
Yep, and the flamethrower has locked on, which means that our last Enforcer Alpha will be going down very soon. Oh, the flying squirrels are in on this too. And yeah, I just ended the battle here.
Listening. 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 Moving out. Moving out. Listening. 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 Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. 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 Moving out. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Moving out. Listening. Listening. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Listening. 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 Listening.
And we engaged the Tarpon again, this time for the final time, because I finally decided that I had enough, and instead of continuing to feed Enforcer Alphas to it, I sent in a trio of Enforcer 4s instead. And so this time, we not only outcost the Tarpon, but we also have enough armor to shrug off its hits, and enough firepower to punch clean through it. And the Tarpon is starting to, it seems to dip, it seems to be dipping pretty low now, even though it is managing to stay above the water. I'm not sure what I cut into here. I guess the ship just got hit or something like that. Oh yeah, there it is. I think the Tarpon might have heat shells or something, because there wasn't any external damage, but the internals of the gun were all basically knocked out. So the destroyer is mostly out at this point in the fight. It's just the other two Enforcer 4s blasting it. But that doesn't matter. The Tarpon is dropping low, and it still manages to keep itself up above the water, surprisingly. I thought it was going to drop into the water there. But it does seem to have some problems moving now. It seems to be swaying around more than it usually would. And the Tarpon is dipping low again. I thought it was about to go down. And we seem to have hit the Tarpon's main gun at this point, because those are some pretty big APS components, and yet the main gun has been disabled. You can see that the barrel is like basically a tiny line, which means that the APS piece has been severed from the rest of the gun. And the Tarpon is definitely not supposed to be doing that. It is now uncontrollably pitching backwards, so we must have hit some thrusters in the back, since there is an Enforcer shooting it from the back, so we probably hit a thruster that way. And without any thrust in the back, the Tarpon is now falling straight down into the water. And unfortunately for it, unlike other deep water guard designs, it seems like the Tarpon is not, it doesn't have enough wood in its construction to float, so it's now underwater and despawning. And that is the end of the Tarpon. So now finally, with the Tarpon gone, we can turn our attention to other ships, mainly the Sailfish. And so the Enforcer 4 trio will be sent to deal with that as well. And since they can retreat a lot faster, I don't believe the Sailfish will be able to catch up with them, meaning that the Sailfish will basically lose this fight out of the gate. At last, we engaged the Sailfish yet again. The Sailfish spawned in facing the wrong direction, so we got a few free pot shots off on it. Seemed to take out a decent amount of stuff. We already have like 90,000 explosive damage. And the Sailfish is now starting to close in. However, unlike the Alphas, the Enforcer 4s are capable of retreating fast enough So the sailfish cannot close the distance, which means that it's just gonna get shot to death from all sides by everything. You can see in the top right corner, the damage is really starting to stack up. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems the sailfish is starting to slow down. And finally, the sailfish has despawned from just taking too much damage. Yeah, and we didn't take any damage in return, which means that this one was a resounding success.
Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Listening.
We engage another Grey Talons ship here. This fight isn't noticeable, except for the fact that somehow the Grey Talons managed to spawn outside of the entire map. As you can see here, it's not even in the boundaries, and our missiles are just straight up flying through the ground to hit it. I found that to be really odd, but yeah, nothing of note. They blew up real quick. These enemies had been sitting on our territory for a while, and they were about to capture it. So I bunched up a bunch of my ships together. I wanted to wait for more reinforcements initially, but upon seeing how close they were to capturing the zone, I figured I would just go for it with the ships that I already had. And so this will be our first and only big fight with the Scarlet Dawn and the Grey Talons. The Grey Talons spread out their ships along the border, so we were able to pick them off one by one. The Scarlet Dawn haven't really sent much of anything, and so after this engagement, they won't have very many ships left. And the Grey Talons already lost a lot of their ships along the border, so this is about the rest of their fleet, I think. And yeah, with the Scarlet Dawn, I don't know if it's just because they don't have a lot of resource zones or something, but they really don't make a lot of ships in the campaign. And so you're usually not really, like, the ships that they do make are, like, good, but they don't make very many of them, which really reduces the amount of challenge from fighting them. And here you can see a lot of the ships are not spawned in yet due to the 200,000 volume limit. I wish the game would bias the volume limit less towards your favor, because as you can see here, our ships take up the vast majority of the volume at 150,000 out of 200,000, even while there are still like Scarlet Dawn and Grey Talons ships that are not spawned in. So I wish the game would spawn in, like, I wish they would allocate more volume for enemy ships rather than your ships, just to, like, you know, make it a little bit more challenging, make the fights also probably a little bit more fair as well. Anyway, there is the Dominus It's currently getting hit by a whole bunch of missiles, so it will be gone soon. I would be surprised if it was still functional at this point, honestly. And with this last missile barrage, the Dominus should be despawning due to just taking damage. Yep, it's down to below 60, which means that it will be counted as 2 damaged and it will despawn. And there's also other Grey Talon ships and Scarlet Dawn ships dying. There's a Zephyr in the water already. I'm not really sure what hit it, because I think, if I remember correctly, I set everything to target the Dominus, or maybe I didn't. Because, yeah, evidently, oh, and here we are, we have some missile trucks ramming into each other. They don't usually tend to do this, but I guess because of just how much stuff is on the field, the AI just can't dodge them all. And here I am frantically trying to find their AIs and turn off their movement so they stop, so they don't just completely kill each other. So yeah, now we just have 3 missile trucks grouped up. We have a lamprey bombarding them from above. Luckily, the lampreys are small, and so we don't really have to worry about them that much. Here are a bunch of missiles coming in, and they blow his shit smooth off. That second lamprey just ate an entire missile volley, and it is 100% dead at this point. The second lamprey, I don't know what's going to happen to it. It seems to be dropping out of the water, and there's more missiles. Yep, it's getting hit by its own missile barrage, and so that one will also be gone. Well, we have a Morning Star right here with a huge missile volley coming in towards it, larger than the ship itself, and it's eating all of those missiles up. Oh, we have lag. And if we have that much, yep, it's gone.
Engaging now.
And finally, the Archangel spawns in from the Scarlet Dawn. The Archangel is a really cool ship, but in my opinion, the missiles are held on by like really thin, spindly arms. I think they should like update the Archangel a little bit so that its missile pods are held on by more than just like a 4-meter beam of steel. Because once that 4-meter beam goes, the entire arm just has a tendency to disconnect. So the Archangel ends up being really fragile. I think you're about to see that right here as all these missiles collide with it. And yeah, as you can see there, one of the sections just disconnected. They're not held on by a whole lot. Yeah, I'm just looking at it. You can see that it's just a very thin piece of metal holding those things on. And the Archangel eats a big shot. I don't know if it was from an Enforcer with its big gun or if it was a missile barrage hitting it from behind, because it's hard to kind of see stuff in space, but just about all of its arms fall off, and I think it's lost enough health to where it's already gonna despawn. And then finally we have a little Velocity flying around, shooting little missiles at us. Even if we can't really hit the Velocity with our guns, we can still definitely hit it with the lasers on the Enforcer 4, which is what makes it such a versatile ship.
Engaging now.
And it also has, we have good amount of missile defense, and so the Velocity's missiles, some of them can still make contact, but when they do, they're already so weak that they don't really do anything to our ships. And I believe this is the last Scarlet Dawn. This is the last enemy vessel in the entire battle. And it's going to go down soon, and we're going to have secured a major victory against the Scarlet Dawn and Grey Talons. And without much damage to our own forces as well. I think all of our ships are still above 90% health, except for maybe like one. The detectors don't count. Those are like unarmored, basically flying clusters of detection blocks. But yeah, everything. Oh yeah, at this point, I'm just withdrawing all the missile trucks because they can't really hit the velocity, and I didn't want to waste materials. And yeah, I'm withdrawing the Enforcer Alphas as well, because only the Enforcer 4s have lasers. No, the Alphas don't. But regardless, the velocity is losing health and it will be going down soon. And finally, after a long drawn out laser zap fest, the velocity finally loses enough health to go down. Oh hey, it's another Harpia, the thing that's super annoying to fight. To give you an idea of how long it takes for my ships to kill this thing, I'm going to speed up this footage until the Harpia dies. And finally, after 10 real life minutes, the Harpia finally begins to die. The clip was sped up by 500%, by the way, so 5 minutes of video time. No, 2 minutes of video time sped up by 5 times. Yeah, that's about 10 real life minutes. Takes forever to kill this thing, but luckily, we're not going to see very much of this ship anymore as we move in on the Grey Talons and get ready to take him out. We have a thunderclap here. This fight is notable because the thunderclap is pretty expensive. It's definitely one of their more expensive ships. I don't remember how much this one cost, but I think it was about like at least 700,000 materials. I might click on the V menu to see its cost sometime during this battle, but I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, a missile volley seems to have hit its gunnery AI because all of its guns have stopped working. So yeah, that was pretty quick. And yeah, at this point, the Thunderclap is only worth around like 650,000 materials, but we have blown a significant amount of stuff off of it, so I wouldn't be surprised if it cost even more than that. A lot more. And the thunderclap begins to go down. Unfortunately, it's like dawn in the game, so we can't really see the ship that well.
Engaging now.
The Damacy has now spawned in. Again, I wish they spawned in both ships at the same time, so it was like more exciting and whatnot, but you know. Anyway, it's around like 400,000 materials, so it's gonna get smoked pretty hard. We've beaten quite a few of these things at this point. The Damacy is on fire. I'm not sure if it's because it stores fuel near the surface of the ship. I think this has also occurred when fighting other Damacies as well, is that they somehow end up on fire, even though none of our ships use fire weapons. But anyway, the Damacy drops into the water. It's 2 damaged and health below 80% and sinking. Here we are engaging the first of the Grey Talons fortresses. We've been on the defense for a while, but now that the Grey Talons have used up all of their ships and they don't have any left to defend, we can finally start pushing forwards and attacking their HQs to take out the faction for good. The Alchemist Slayer and the Raven's Nest are like the 2 things that you'll find on just about every resource zone. The Alchemist's Lair is unarmed and unarmored. I don't know why it's there, but it's a cool thing to shoot at. Yeah, it takes a missile volley. The Raven's Nest... I think the Raven's Nest is based on the Blackstone Fortress from Warhammer 40k. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure a lot of the Grey Talons ships are inspired by 40k designs. And the 8-pointed star definitely looks like a Chaos Blackstone Fortress kind of creation. It is certainly one of the more difficult. I mean, I wouldn't say it's difficult. The guns on the Raven's Nest are not particularly powerful. I've never noticed them really doing any damage, like any significant damage. But the laser system is quite sizable on the Raven's Nest, and it will stop your APS projectiles unless you fire them really quickly. But yeah, the laser system or not, the missiles from the missile truck just make their way through with very little resistance, and they just blow off guns from the fortress. Yeah, the missile volleys just come in, and there's so many frags going off that you can see that the game can't even render the frags properly, creating some really strange visuals. And yeah, the frags go straight through the turret wells and knock out the turrets themselves. So at this point, the fortress has about only half of its guns firing, and yeah. And the Raven's Nest has now dipped below 60% health, which means that it should be starting to despawn anytime soon. And all these missiles hitting it are really just helping the process along.
Engaging now.
And with the Raven's Nest beginning to despawn, I retarget all of my ships to take out the Alchemist's lair in the meantime. And yep, it's AI dead and it's falling into the ocean. And so now both of the fortresses are gone, and we have claimed our first HQ victory against the Grey Talons. I'm probably gonna skip most of the other Grey Talons HQ fights that have the Raven's Nests, just because they're not particularly exciting, and the Raven's Nest does take a while to kill just because of its size. So I'll probably be skipping those. But when we get to the Grey Talons HQs that are not just Raven's Nests, I will play those and commentate over those as well. That looks like an plaque over there. I think that might be a new ship that they added to the game, since I've never actually seen it before, either both in campaign and in the build menu. It seems to be some sort of railgun satellite. I think the Scarlet Dawn has... Ooh, it just took a hit. Or it just fired a shot. Yeah, it seems to be doing some pretty decent damage per hit. I think the Scarlet Dawn has several railgun type satellites as well, but this is a new cool one that I haven't seen before. It just seems to be a giant gun floating in space, and it doesn't seem to have that much in the way of actual defense. Oh yeah, it's taken some pretty big chunks, I think. Several long stuff. Oh wait, no, I think those are missile trails actually. Yeah, those are missile trails. I thought those were like some sort of laser or like shield ring type of devices. It does seem to be going out of control now though, so the fight should be over pretty soon. We go into battle against a Zephyr. We've killed like a lot of these at this point. They usually die in like the first 30 seconds, but for some reason this particular one is managing to survive and dodge all of our shots. So this must be like the chosen one or something like that. Yeah, usually that turret gets that sand blaster up top gets blown off instantly, but it's staying on this time. And it's actually somehow managing to put up a fight. The destroyer just exploded. It's still flying. No, it's falling out of the sky. The thing's just been AI deaded. I don't actually know what hit that because the Zephyr doesn't seem to carry any missiles at all. But yeah, somehow the 150,000 material little ship has managed to down an entire like 330,000 ship. Somehow. I don't even know how that happened, really. And its gun is still on there, and it's just blasting away. Keep in mind, it's going up against, like, I think, like, 800,000 materials worth of ship. And this is a 150,000 material ship. And somehow, for some reason, we're just not able to hit it. All of our shots just keep missing. And somehow, it's also able to just hit us all the time. I'm not sure what was going on in this battle, since again, we've stomped so many of these at this point, but somehow this one just manages to not die and keep shooting. You can see it's chewed off the entire front end of one of these Enforcer 4s, which is absolutely insane, because, I mean, these things have gone up against like stuff like the Harpia and taken plasma hits to the face, and even that didn't do as much damage as this little ship that's like half their cost. So I don't know what this Zephyr was smoking, but it was definitely smoking something that I want to put in my own ships. And it's still going. Yeah, its shots are still on target. You can see more blocks sprinkling out of that Enforcer 4. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out of it. It's down to like 80% health, which is really low for an Enforcer 4. They don't usually get that low, especially not to a ship that's this small. And as you can see, the Zephyr is still on 87%, so we haven't really done that much to the thing, actually. And at this point, I was considering the possibility that we might somehow lose to a ship that's like 1/5 the cost of our entire fleet, which would have been pretty wild to see. Yeah, the entire right side of this Enforcer 4 is just gone at this point. It's been chewed out. It's been hollowed out all the way to the back, and it's lost like 40,000 materials worth of stuff. But finally, we get a hit, and the turret gets popped off the Zephyr, and that's basically the end for it. The Zephyr seems to have a pretty explosive turret, and I imagine if there were ammo ejectors on there, it would probably be a lot deadlier of a ship than it is now. But at any rate, now that its main gun is out, the entire ship is going down, and bye-bye. I still can't believe it actually stood a chance of winning this fight. Here we are sending the Deepwater Guard to the bottom of Davy Jones' locker, or however they say it. Yeah, this is their Davy Jones outpost that we're shooting at. Unlike other outposts from other factions, the Davy Jones outpost is not super combat effective, so we can just blast it freely until it dies. It's not really gonna put up much of a fight here. And with that, the Davy Jones locker begins to despawn. So the only thing left now is the fish in a barrel. Their little like storehouse or like ammo factory or something. Oh yeah, fun fact. This little crate suspended on the crane, it's packed with explosive barrels. So if you hit it, it explodes pretty spectacularly. Yeah, that's all just ammo in there. And it's wood, so it blows up very nicely. Yeah, and you can see me here taking control of our guns to try and hit the thing on purpose, but unfortunately the fish in a barrel dies before we can actually hit the crate. I've managed to hit it in like past campaigns, but unfortunately not this time. And with that, the Davy Jones outpost is destroyed. We got the message, but because the Deepwater Guard still has another HQ, we haven't technically defeated them yet. Although at this point they're basically done for. You can see here that there's 2 Grey Talons resource zones that we've taken over. However, we've only destroyed 1 Grey Talons fortress. The other resource zone was just it was basically just a resource collector. It wasn't an actual fortress. We rush in a battle here to help an Onyx watch, I believe, Basilica, in its fight against a Scarlet Dawn ship. I don't remember the name of the Scarlet Dawn ship. I'll see. Yeah, it's a Basilica. Unfortunately, the Basilica seems to have already taken too much damage and immediately despawns as soon as the battle loads. Yes, it's the Galaxy. I fought this ship before. It's like a weird laser particle cannon broadsider thing. It's definitely one of the weirder Scarlet Dawn designs out there for sure. Although that central section is very thin, and as a result, it's not very well armored. So you can see that the Galaxy takes a few hits and then it immediately starts rolling over into the water. And once it's in the water, it's done for. Here we go against Captain Sal's fleet, a fleet that I have blown up many times at this point. I think every single campaign, I've killed the Deepwater Guard, and so I've fought Sal's fleet every time. I actually, when I first encountered it in the campaign on easy mode, I lost quite a few ships, but now with my better ships, Sal's fleet is no match for us, and they basically get torn apart pretty quickly. The Flieger just detonated, and I'll just do a quick jump cut through this fight. Now we take on the second Raven's Nest. Yeah. Again, we have it surrounded with our entire fleet. This should be a pretty easy victory for us. Uh-oh, it's the Rusted Ram guys again. In case you don't know at this point, the Rusted Ram spawns like a swarm of nukes when their HQ is destroyed. So we'll have to go into battle with those. Unfortunately for them, the Enforcer 4s are very good at dealing with nukes. As a matter of fact, the Enforcer 4 is capable of 1v1ing the Alarmed from the Twin Guard and winning without even being hit once, even though it's 20,000 materials less. We engaged the nukes here in this battle. You can see the cloud of Grey Talon's nukes on the horizon, but with the Enforcer trio, they're just zapping those things out of the sky. You can see them just exploding all over the place. Yeah, that's the little laser from the Destroyer version. Also, another thing is that the Enforcer 4s are capable of retreating at up to like 100 meters per second, so they're very quick, even backwards, and this makes it very hard for nukes to actually close the distance, simply because like the speed difference between them isn't that great, and so that gives the Enforcers a lot of time to just zap them out of the sky with their lasers. A lot of them in the background have fallen down. Several of them are exploding. The Grey Talon's ICBMs are not particularly quick either. They rely on just maneuverability and dodging all of your shots to close in on the target. Ooh, that one's just cartwheeling through the air. And I think we're down to the last two ICBMs here. This one's getting zapped from all directions. Oh, there's some fire damage. It's only a matter... Yeah, the lasers on those Enforcers tend to start fires on the nuke crafts, and then the fire spreads and that happens, because nukes don't really have armor. So as soon as the fire starts spreading through their internals, they basically just blow up. And the last nuke is in the water. It's too low, which means that it'll self-destruct, and there it goes. Hey y'all, so for you guys, no time has passed at all, but for me, it's actually a month later. I've been procrastinating on finishing this video, but I figured that I'd have to get it done sooner rather than later, since I don't have the hard drive space to record anything else until this video is done. So I'm probably gonna get it wrapped up in like a few days from now. At this point, we have so much of the map that we've already basically won, and so the rest, except for the big battles, the rest of the video will just be like quick cuts from fight to fight. And like you're not like we're not gonna see any of the fights finish unless like they die in a super cool way or something. Okay, never mind, I lied. It's been like a few weeks since the last voice line was recorded. Here's a collection of different ships getting blown up. Yeah, and finally we take on, I believe, the second Raven's Nest of the Grey Talons. We're just shooting up some of their sky base and their Alchemist Slayer. And we are also getting shot up as well by the Raven's Nest. I withdraw from the battle at this point so that I can bring more ships into the fight, I think. No, we're still going. Their Alchemist Slayer has fallen into the water. Yep, and the battle ends. I gather more of my ships. Oh no, not yet. Something just exploded from the Scarlet Dawn. I don't know what that was. It blew up right as the battle started. Here's the Dominus. We shoot it up pretty good too, and it goes down quickly. And then we blow up the Alchemist Slayer again. This time we're fighting the Peacemaker, which is the only Grey Talon's base that actually flies around as a ship and not like a fortress. But since the Peacemaker it's just like a bunch of sub-objects that spin, it dies much faster than the Raven's Nest, because when you pop those sub-objects, it loses a lot of HP. Anyway, here's the Raven's Nest again from earlier, but this time we brought more ships to the fight. There's a missile barrage and another one. The missile barrages really take out a lot of HP from the enemy, and it really helps like speed up the rate at which they despawn. Yeah, unfortunately a lot of these are heat missiles, and unfortunately a lot of their fragments are just being kind of wasted. Maybe I should switch them to like thumpers or something. Anyway, the Raven's Nest eventually goes down with no losses on our part. And this is the Gotha. It explodes very spectacularly when you hit that central gun section. The entire thing just detonates. This cannon fortress also detonated, and this dark star is also detonating as well, losing its turret pretty quickly. And then now it's just like a little base that shuffles around. I think it's neat that the Scarlet Dawn actually have like ships and not just fortresses like everybody else. Anyway, here's some of their ships getting melted. And here's another Raven's Nest. Sometimes I wish each of the fortresses were a little bit different. It gets kind of repetitive fighting the same thing over and over again, especially since the Grey Talons have multiple HQs. But yeah, same as all the other ones, this one gets blasted by a bunch of missiles and it also dies. And with that, the Grey Talons are actually gone now, so that was pretty quick. We took out most of their ships already, so there wasn't much left other than killing their base. Anyway, this is a new addition to the game at the time of recording this. The Fission Trifecta is like a huge missile throwing ship. It throws incendiary missiles, which as you can see, hurt quite a bit. They do a lot of damage. Luckily, the Enforcer 4s, they sit right at the edge of those missiles' range, and so the missiles can't hit them all that well, and being made out of metal, they're not super duper flammable. But even then, you can see the incendiary does quite a lot of damage. And our guns can't hit the fissions as quite that well, but luckily we have lasers, and our lasers can hit the fissions very well. Also, our interceptors do weaken their huge missiles. Yeah, we must have defeated them at some point because we've now cut to another fight. I think the Onyx Watch actually brought their Eerie here. Unfortunately, we did not get to fight the Eerie. I don't know what happened to it. But we never got the Eerie Survivors Club achievement. And finally, we take on the Scarlet Dawn's HQ, their flagship. Honestly, this flagship needs a rework. It's super mid, and as you can see here, it seems like somebody forgot their ammo ejectors and their turret just blew up. Yeah, I wish the Scarlet Dawn's like boss craft was like actually strong and like it was good and could like do stuff. But unfortunately, it's just kind of a meme. You just kind of like stomp it and it dies. It would be cool if maybe they made it like the only ship in the game that could cost like 4 million material or something, and it would be some like lag monster. But unfortunately, in its current state, it's not that hard to kill. Anyway, here I am checking the relations. I was hoping to maybe just be able to end the game and as allies with all the other factions, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, and which means that I will now have to go to war. And so there were several options to pick from. I was definitely gonna go to war against the Onyx Watch just because they would be kind of useless as allies against the other two. And ultimately I decided to go with the Steel Striders as my allies rather than the Twin Guard, simply because the Twin Guard would have been surrounded on both sides. And also the Twin Guard are honestly like not that strong. I'd say the Steel Striders are definitely stronger than the Twin Guard in my opinion. Anyway, we take on, I believe, a Twin Guard. Yep, it's there. Oh no, this is yeah, it is a Twin Guard swarm. It's a bunch of drones, and as you can see, the Enforcer 4s do a very good job of disintegrating drones with those lasers. And so they're just getting their faces melted off. The drones also can't keep up at all, so yeah, just a bunch of AI dead. And then after killing the drones, I end the battle so I can gather more ships to attack their HQ with, which I do right here. And once again, there is yet another swarm. The Twin Guard loves their swarms, so if you ever go up against them, make sure to bring good anti-swarm defenses. But here we do have those anti-swarm defenses, so the swarm goes down super easily. And now we lock on to their Terravores to try and knock him out. The Terravores actually have some pretty good missile defense, so if you want to kill them with a missile barrage like I'm doing right now, you need a lot of missiles to overwhelm them. But once those missile defenses go down, you can see that they don't last very long, and they die pretty fast. But yeah, you'll need a huge initial missile volley to overwhelm those defenses if you want to stand a chance at knocking these out. The plasma guns are also pretty nasty as well, so you'll want to watch out for those. And with those Terravores gone, the battle essentially comes to an end, and we take our first fortress from the Twin Guard. Here's a no, that's not the jellyfish, that's the squid, and it gets evaporated, along with this swarm right here. And here's a plane. The Twin Guard actually makes some pretty good planes. Their planes are nice and bulky, and decently hard to kill, and they also hit decently hard. Here's an Enforcer that's been dropped into the water. This is the Hysteria. I think it uses like sand blasters of some sort. Pretty cool. but it's outmatched here because we just spammed it to death with a bunch of ships, and it goes down. Here's that same plane again, also going down. Here's a second copy of that plane. As you can see, it's taking a lot of damage, but it's actually holding up pretty well. I wish I knew how to make planes like that, but all of my planes just kind of like fall over and die as soon as they get hit by anything. But regardless, we take that plane down too. Oh, and here's the Palisade. The Palisade has probably killed more ships than any other faction ship in the game, simply because, as you can see, as you are about to see, the Enforcer Alpha is really weak to... Yeah, it's really weak against those missiles, and those missiles just eat the Enforcer Alphas alive. So that was quite a surprise when I ran into my first Palisade, and it continues to be a surprise every time an Enforcer gets eaten alive by those missiles. Luckily though, the missile trucks genuinely just don't care about the missiles at all, and they eat the Palisade alive in return. Here's the Wonder. I think the Wonder is a super cool ship. Unfortunately, it's not very effective. 0Q lasers just spread the damage out too much, and that turret gets disabled right off the bat. It still has a secondary turret. Oop, that main turret also got removed as well. Unfortunately, that secondary turret was just eliminated, and with no more weapons, the Wonder also goes down. And here's a Basilica. I really like the Onyx Watch like flying fortress things. I think they're pretty cool. Unfortunately, the Basilica is not quite as survivable as others, like the Eerie, and it drops out of the sky pretty fast. It's also hopelessly outmatched here. So, oh, yeah, the Flamethrower Swarm. If you ever fight the Twin Guard on higher difficulties, and you have slow ships, watch out for this Flamethrower Swarm. These Symphonies, the Harmony Swarm, I think, they catch up to you, they get up into your face, and then they flamethrower you to death. Luckily, the missile trucks fire a lot of missiles upward, and so flying over the missile trucks got the swarm completely destroyed. There was the jellyfish I was thinking about earlier. It dies pretty quickly. I think it's like a hard or godly difficulty design, but quite frankly, it's like not that great. Particle cannons are pretty easily disabled. And here's a Terravor, the second. I don't know if this is a HQ or just another resource node, but we kill it pretty quick and we take it over for ourselves. Here's a missile truck copping a lot of hits. But luckily, I'm not a missile truck, an Enforcer 4, but you can see, luckily the things are pretty durable. Oh, yeah. It's still burning kind of badly though, but luckily we do have some missile defense to intercept those missiles. Oh, this is the Spire. I remember running into this the first time. It was a nasty surprise and I ended up losing ships to it. It just spams missiles, and because it's so long and thin, it's really hard to get a critical hit on it and actually shut it down. Usually you end up killing the Spire by just reducing its HP below 60%. Yeah, you can see that those incendiary missiles really hurt and they do a lot of damage. Here's another jellyfish getting its brains blown out. And it goes down pretty quickly too. I remember testing against this when I started the game and getting trashed by it because all of my designs sucked. I believe. Yep, we are against, oh no, an Iron Cordon. But the Iron Cordon, like the Palisade, shoots large missiles. And the large missile barrage once again kills the Enforcer Alpha pretty good. I don't know what this thing is, but it's getting shot up pretty good as well, and it's dead. Yeah. Oh yeah, if you aren't aware, when fighting Twin Guard ships, aim for the base. That's usually like the mothership, and knocking it out will kill the entire thing. Anyway, back to this Iron Cordon. We blast it with missiles so that way we don't lose any more Enforcer Alphas. Unfortunately, the Enforcer Alpha just doesn't have enough missile defense to deal with large missiles, and it gets beaten pretty badly by these types of ships. And the Onyx Watch has a decent amount of large missile spamming ships, so... Oh yes, and here you can see the missiles from the missile truck. Their long survival time lets them make a second pass, turning around and jumping back out of the water at the enemy, which results in some pretty nasty hits from time to time. I believe this is the final. Oh no, this is Thanatos. This is one of the boss ships of the Twin Guard. We blast the Foundry first because why not? And when the Foundry goes down, Thanatos will spawn in and we'll blast him too, simply because we have like quadruple his cost. The HQs are pretty annoying because they, as you can see, they try and spawn sub-vehicles. So if you're fighting in a 1v1, you're in for a pretty tough time if you don't have the correct target prioritization. Because the HQ will just spawn a bunch of little things and they'll swarm you and give you a really tough time. But luckily, we do have good target prio, and so we smoke Thanatos pretty good here. And yep, he's dead. Now we have another Iron Cordon. The Onyx Watch is very fond of spamming their Iron Cordons and Palisades, which is quite annoying because they're the one thing that actually hard counters, like my Enforcer Alphas, which is like they make a pretty good sight, a portion of the fleet. So yeah, it's kind of annoying having a quarter of your fleet hard countered by like 2 ships. But anyway, here's Eris, the other Twin Guard boss ship, also getting blasted. Eris is not as strong as Thanatos in my opinion, just because, again, the 0Q laser is quite honestly a really mid main weapon. It has 60 AP compared to the 40 AP of pulsed lasers, which makes it seem like it would be better. But realistically, because of the instability of lasers, the laser beam tends to wiggle around and spread the damage out over a wide area, and that results in just like worse armor penetrating ability overall. And with that, Eris goes down and the Twin Guard is officially destroyed. So now all that's left to do is finish off the Onyx Watch. We blast this military installation. You can see there's a basilica, a weapon there, and therefore our attacks on the Onyx Watch are justified. That tower over there is probably a scout tower to alert their guns of our presence. And those houses most likely house military personnel. They could even have military installations under those houses, so their destruction is 100% warranted. There's definitely nothing wrong here with what we're doing. Anyway, we win against this military installation, and with that, I look at the relationships again, hoping to maybe end the war with the Steel Striders as our ally. Unfortunately not. I think the Steel Striders had like good relations with the Onyx Watch, so killing the Onyx Watch kind of made our relations with the Steel Striders worse. So we go into battle against this Onyx Throne to take out the Onyx Watch once and for all. Well, the Onyx Throne is not very expensive. It's not the most threatening thing in the world, unless it actually hits you with those crams, but we have some pretty evasive ships, so it can't hit us. But it's very, there's a lot of empty space inside, which means that those heat missiles don't do a whole lot. And so it takes a long time to take down this fortress. Luckily, though, we disable most of its guns early on, so it can't really hurt us. It just takes a long time to kill that thing. And there were some Conestogas in the vicinity as well, unfortunately for them. We don't take surrenders, so they both get eaten alive by missiles as well. And once again, the long lifespan of those missiles proves useful as they turn around and blast the second Conestoga with the same volley. In case you're wondering, those are remote-guided missiles, by the way, in order to protect against decoy and whatnot. And anyway, with that, the Onyx Watch are also down, meaning that the only thing left is to take out the Steel Striders. And as you can see here, we lead a war against the Steel Striders to take him out once and for all and end our game with a victory. Hopefully. The Steel Striders have probably had a lot of time to amass ships at this point. Here's a Banshee. It's a missile spammer, but we spam missiles better than they do, and it gets out-spammed. Oh yes, in godly difficulty, the Steel Striders love to spam submarines. annoyingly so, I found this out. And so here I am building some spotter units, which will help my ships see submarines and shoot them from the air. This, I believe, is a little plane formation. Oh, yes. And the Excalibur spawned in. I didn't realize this was also in the battle. Unfortunately, we are blockaded, so if we leave the battle now, we lose our fleet. So we just have to try and kill this Excalibur thing. Unfortunately, the Excalibur costs like 500,000, which is double our fleet. So we don't really have much of a chance here. Yeah, you can see it just chucking a lot of rounds at us. And the Enforcer Alphas are just not meant for heavy firepower. But somehow we managed to immediately pop 2 turrets off of the Excalibur. Again, moral of the story. Oh, there's a 3rd turret that got popped. Moral of the story, don't forget your ammo ejectors if you're running explosive filler in your ammunition, because this tends to happen if you do that. The Excalibur could have easily won this, but because its turrets all blew up, we easily win this instead. Surprisingly so, and yeah, we take it down. And all we have to do now is wrap up those little planes. Luckily, we have enough missile defense to block their missiles, so we have all the time in the world to kill them. And with those high velocity APS guns, we finish them off. And here, an Enforcer Alpha has taken, I believe, a Predator X for a joyride, grabbing it with one of its detector missiles. Anyway, we shower it with shots and it eventually goes down. Here's another sub. I think we have a spotter here, given by how we're actually able to like seemingly track it underwater. Yep. Surprisingly, our APS guns don't have super cav, so it's hard for us to hit subs with those. But funnily enough, despite the debuff due to water, our lasers finish it off. And I don't know what we're fighting here. Oh, a Wolin, another submarine. Yeah, the Wolin is bigger, so it's a lot easier to hit this thing, even without super cav. And our APAG shells just dish it out, and the Wolin quickly despawns because it's just taking so much explosive damage. Ooh, and here's the Aero Tyrant, which is one of the coolest planes in the game. Unfortunately, unlike the Twin Guard, the Aero Tyrant is nowhere near as durable, and you can just see it exploding. And all of its weapons are basically gone now, and it goes down. Oh, and that's another thingy rolling, and that is a Wolin, which will also probably get blown up pretty quickly. And yeah, it's dead. And here we are gathering our ships for a big fleet battle, the first of many. The Steel Striders really love their fleets. And yeah, seems like we have pulled several enemies into combat. First is the Excalibur. Same ship from earlier that got all of its turrets detonated. Yeah, given how many ships we have, I don't think it stands much of a chance. I think, yeah, its turrets have been popped again. And it's despawning. And there is a Spirit. I think that's like the only satellite that the Steel Striders has. It's not very strong, and our lasers have no problem hitting it at all, and it dies pretty fast. Yeah. And here is, I believe, another Predator X. Yep, it's a Predator X. Again, our lasers kill it, and our missiles kill it. Our guns don't really kill it, but it doesn't really matter at this point. We have so much stuff. And we attack the first HQ of the Steel Striders. I believe this is the one that produces like their old-fashioned battleships. Given that it is defended by old-fashioned battleships, the Guernsey takes it. The Liberator Cannon, surprisingly powerful actually. Those are decently threatening, and they kind of stop you from just like throwing a little ship to take out an entire base. You really have to send some serious firepower to deal with those Liberators, but we disable it. And there's a Norge. This was also a ship I tested against a lot when I first started the game, and it stomped me every time just because my ships kind of sucked. Yeah, they were really bad. But anyway, my ships are better now, so we win the fight against the Norge. And now we are going to evaporate the rest of their military installation. As you can see, they have ICBMs here, which are weapons of mass destruction, and therefore we must destroy them. There's just no other way. We have to stop them from developing weapons of mass destruction. That house actually houses military personnel, and they also probably have secret ICBM facilities underneath, so its destruction is definitely warranted. Here is a dockyard. Again, this was probably a military installation, so we're completely justified in blowing it up. Anyway, we win that battle, and we engage in the second fleet battle of the video. And you can hear boss music playing, which is bad, because it means that one of their big mean ships has spawned in. And yeah, it is the Tyr and the Tiger Shark. Both of which are pretty nasty. The Tyr is like 1 million materials. Tiger Shark is like 500, 600,000. We're pretty evenly matched on cost and volume here. So this is a pretty fair head-to-head beef, head-to-head match. Yeah, they have some stuff that's not spawned in. We have some stuff that's not spawned in. Our missiles go straight for the Tyr, which is firing back. And the Tiger Shark is also charging into the fight. Yeah, the Tyr's missile defenses are nullifying a lot of our missile volley, but as we begin to damage it, more and more of our volleys get through because the Tyr's missile defenses are getting weaker and weaker. And the Tiger Shark is over there getting shot at and shooting at us. I guess each turret is controlled individually on the Tyr, given that the turrets are shooting at different things. Yeah, the Tyr's missile defenses have weakened considerably, and huge portions of our volleys are now getting through. Unfortunately, we're only really hitting the ends of the ship and not really taking out anything important. Although, that being said, we might have just taken out the Sea Whiz gun on the Tyr. The Tiger Shark is still over there doing Tiger Shark things. Oh yes, that's our spotter over there that is not spawned in, so it cannot spot the submarines. But luckily, the Steel Striders do not have their submarines spawned in either, so it doesn't really matter. There's our missile trucks firing. They're taking quite a beating from the Tyr, honestly, because the missile trucks don't evade. They just kind of tank shots to the face. You can see a lot of blocks coming off of that one, but it's still functional. It's still throwing rounds downrange, and that's really all that matters. And now the missile trucks shoot at their first turret. One of the guns on that turret has had its barrels cut off, and now several of its barrels are disabled. Yeah, it looks like a lot of the barrels on that Tyr are starting to get turned off. Here's the Tiger Shark charging through the fray. It's gotten blasted pretty badly. It's missing its entire superstructure. But those missiles are still intact, and unfortunately those missiles really do hurt. Here is an Enforcer. You can see its entire nose has basically been taken off, so it's taken quite a bit of damage at this point. Luckily, it still has a functional gun and a functional laser, so I can't really complain. And yeah, the missile truck has taken a huge beating from the Tyr. It's missing, it looks like it's gotten a bunch of bites taken out of it. Luckily though, it's still got those missiles going, and it's still pounding at the Tyr, which has lost a turret at this point, so things aren't looking too good for it. Yeah, its fire rate has slowed considerably, and we take another turret off. At this point, the Tyr's basically done for. It doesn't really have much weaponry left. So at this point, we basically start focusing fire on the Tiger Shark. Both of our missile trucks are still alive, even though they One of them is very damaged at 66%. Yeah, the missiles. Some of the missiles are actually still connected though. So this thing is, unfortunately, the mainframe has been disconnected. So that sucks. And here's the tiger shark. Finally, we despawned it from hitting it in the face over and over again. And the Wolin spawns in, and the nurse shark spawns in. I didn't realize this thing was a sub, and I also didn't realize that it costs like 800,000 materials, and it sits like 200 meters underwater. Unfortunately, we're not able to see it without our spotter. Yep, and one of our missile trucks loses way too much health, and it starts to despawn. There's another sub, the black tip shark. It's just 3 subs at this point. Unfortunately, our spotter is very poorly armored, and it seems as if it has already been knocked out. So now we have to deal with 3 submarines, and we cannot see submarines. So unfortunately, our ability to fight back is super compromised. And the nurse shark is just like slinging shells at us, and we're just taking a lot of damage, and we can't really hit it in return. Surprisingly, this thing is somehow still functioning, which I'm not really sure how that works, but I mean, I'll take it. Yeah, that gun is still going somehow, even though the ship has had like 50% of it removed. Yeah, and I can't leave the battle either because I lose every ship. But we weren't able to kill. We weren't doing anything against the nurse shark just because we couldn't see it, and so I had to end the battle. But I had more ships in the area, so I brought those ships back, and now we're going for round 2 against the same fleet. This time I tell my ships to just get closer so they can shoot better. And yeah, with a new spotter, we can now see the enemy submarines again, and we vaporize them. Here's the tier. I don't know why the Steel Striders didn't pull it back for repairs, but they sent it at us anyway, even though the thing doesn't work. And so we just kill it, yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised we didn't see the Megalodon this run, considering how long the Steel Striders went without being attacked. I figured they would have built up, like, you know, their big boss ship. But yeah, outside of the Tarpon, we didn't see any boss ships in the entire playthrough. And yeah, I'm just telling all my ships to get closer. Here's the Enforcer 5, which is about the closest thing to a flagship that I get. It's like a big, like, spearhead type vessel. Here I am just tuning its AI to make it engage the nurse shark better. And it is working. Our shots are going into the water. It wields 2 like maximum sized railguns. Each shot uses 180 electric charge, and it's a full 16-piece 500mm APAG. And it is quite effective too, because it seems as if we have taken out an entire barrel from the nurse shark, which is good because now its firepower is halved, and we can make quick work of it. Another big explosion from the Enforcer 5's gun punching into it, and that seems to have disabled the pitch on the nurse shark. It can't actually control itself anymore, and because of that, it can't aim at us either. So now it's just a sitting duck, and we just blast it, and it dies. Yep, it's going down. The Enforcer 5 has, you know, eaten a few hits, but it has a decently strong nose and good redundancy in its thrust, so that it doesn't take any real threatening damage, and it's still perfectly functional. Even if some of its missile interceptors have been destroyed. And that's the battle over. I guess the Wolin must have been killed at some point. Anyway, here we are against some little planes. And finally we engage our second HQ. I think this is the one that makes the shark ships, actually. Yeah, it is. You can see the little HQ hull, the twin hulls look a bit like the little shark ships. So yeah, I think it is the one that makes those sharks. You can see it shooting missiles at our Enforcer 5, but unfortunately for it, the Enforcer 5 has very good missile defense with a lot of missile interceptors, and so the HQ can't really touch it. And we shower it from all sides with our own attacks, and it's taking a lot of damage with good amounts of block confetti. And finally, it takes enough damage to just straight up despawn. And here we are shooting another spirit. This one also dies too. I don't think we have lasers on it this time, but our APS shells seem to hit it just fine. Finally, we engage a group of watchmen. These defend the third HQ. The first watchman, surprisingly resilient. It's taken a lot of hits, but it's still in the fight. And now it's not in the fight anymore. Its turret is gone. The second watchman, still in the fight, not anymore. And the third watchman, unfortunately, is also no longer in the fight. Yep. And it goes down too. And finally, we engage the third HQ of the Steel Striders. I think this is just their airfield where they make all their little planes. Yeah, it is. They have some planes defending, but the planes don't really. I think that plane just collided. Oh yes, one of my biggest gripes is that the game, if you have a fleet that exists for a long time, eventually the game will start trying to spawn ships of that fleet inside of each other. And as you can see right there, that usually leads to one of them dying from collision damage. I don't know why the game does that, because the ships are not supposed to spawn in each other, but for some reason it just does. Anyway, here's an Enforcer Alpha flying over. I think its collision avoidance is making it do that. And we take out their airfield as well. The airfield is just like a flat slab, so it does take a while to kill, but we eventually do it. And here's another Woolen and a blacktip shark. Unfortunately for them, they are in very shallow water. The Woolen can't even fully submerge itself, so we can see it just fine, and it's getting shot up pretty badly as a result. Here's the blacktip shark. Pretty damaged, no weapon, and oh yes, here I am just manually controlling it, because we don't actually have anything that can spot underwater. So I'm just manually controlling to end the fight faster. Here we are 1v1ing against the Hydra. We're evenly matched in cost here. It's an Enforcer 4 versus a Hydra. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be able to hit the Hydra for some reason, even though the Hydra is literally not evading us at all. For some reason, our APS guns just keep missing. And eventually, enough of its attacks make it through and turn off our guns. I think the Hydra fires like heat or Hesh, and the Enforcer 4 has no defense against either of those. So the guns get disabled and we lose that fight. But in revenge, we kill a craftsman instead, and we blow up another resource zone. So all is good, and we are even. And finally, we engage their second to last HQ. The Steel Striders, I think, also have 5 HQs, like the Grey Talons. Once again, we start the battle off by obliterating a Revox munitions factory, and now we destroy their submarine pen. I guess this is where they build their subs, those annoying subs. But yeah, the submarine pen dies super fast. And finally, we press on to their last HQ. And once we destroy this one, the entire campaign will be over and we will have won. Once again, we start the fight by killing, I assume, a Revox munitions factory. And with it gone, the Damascus spawns in. In one of my previous playthroughs, I actually captured the Damascus, but I mean, it doesn't really do anything for you. It doesn't have any vehicle spawners that you can use to spawn vehicles. So this time, I just decided to kill it instead. The Damascus does have some guns, but not enough. Nowhere near enough for all this. So we kill it, and it starts to despawn, and with that, the mission is complete, and we have beat Neater Godly. So yeah, if you guys have stayed all the way to the end somehow, I mean, I guess I was interesting enough to watch all the way through. I can't believe I recorded like the last 30 minutes in one take, and my voice is now dead. My throat is very itchy and dry. So anyway, I'll leave y'all with that. If you have like any challenge suggestions, I'm planning on doing a ship only playthrough of Godly Neater, but if you guys have any challenges, I am down to hear them and maybe even try them out for myself. Anyways, see y'all.